Hello again, welcome to another Toku Ramblings. Today we talk about Sentai's savior in the 90s after the disappointing sales and low TV ratings of both Turbo Ranger and Five-Man, Choujin Sentai, Jetman. So I guess we'll start with the synopsis of the early. So, in 1991, or then present day, the Earth is protected by the Skyforce, an international defense agency that protects peace on the planet. Aboard the Earth ship, scientists led by Commander Aya Odagiri have been working on an experiment known as the J Project, with the intention of empowering humans with superhuman abilities. 5 members of the Skyforce are chosen to become an elite squadron that protects the... Amongst them is Ryu Tendo and his girlfriend Rie Aoi. As they begin to infuse the soldiers with the Birdonic waves, stuff starts to go sideways as the Viram, an evil interdimensional group bent on dominating every dimension there is declares dimension theirs and proceeds to destroy the Earthship, killing almost everyone. One, including Rie, as Ryu and Aya have to flee back to Earth. Though hope is not lost. Despite Ryu being the only one to have gotten the Birdonic waves, the remaining 4 were sent into civilians across the planet. I'm just kidding, it was just people in Japan. And there is Eris Kaori Rokumeiken, farmer Raita Oishi, student athlete Ako Saka, and bad boy loner guy Yuki, now stand against the Vire. Who, in a unique twist for Sentai at the time, don't have a specific leader. They're all equal and don't really like each other. Instead, they use the destruction of the Jetman as to decide who the leader is going forward, which might be kind of easy considering the team does not immediately gel well together. What I really like about this cast specifically is how I guess as it stands as an antithesis for what had come before. Generally, teams up to this point were more than willing to join in the fight against evil because they're all really good. The Jetman team, besides Ryu, are not that. They do ultimately come around to it, but initially they all have their own specific reasons or not reasons to join. Kaori just joins because it sounds interesting, and not long afterwards she tries to get out of it because it's too hard. Raita initially doesn't want to join, instead focusing on his veggies, but once they get trampled, he decides to fight. Akko more or less wants to get paid to use her new powers, and Guy's an ass. We will get to him and why he's actually really soft. But it makes the cast, and again, I don't like you, feel a lot more human. Man, instead of just the stock good guy, he's the second in command, the big guy, the girl, the tomboy, that you could say that some earlier Sentais kind of fell into. Though it does lead to a problem of... This kind of feels like it was initially written as a trio show, but since Gatchaman was a 5-man team, it kind of happened. Specifically, the main focus is on the love triangle between Ryu, Guy, and Kaori. That's not to say the other two get shafted, but the story really... The main focal point of a lot of the big plot-heavy episodes is around them. Now, again, they're all really solid. I really do think Akko is really good. But when she gets her focus episodes, I think they're really solid. Like her old teddy bear, or the sort of love interest she gets in Dan from the Back Dimension Soldiers, whose actor would also play another Dan next season. Then there's also the episode that focuses on her school life and how her role as a Jetman kind of makes her... kind of drives a bit of a wedge between her and her friend, or the dub one. Those are really solid episodes. But in terms of, the main story, she's probably the one with the least amount of... I wouldn't say least amount of involvement, but she's the one who feels like she got the least focus. And it can also be said for Raita. They try to also include him by also saying he likes Kaori, but they give him a girlfriend. friend a bit later. He's very much the big, strong guy of the group, and when I mean strong, one of his signature moves is just finding a bunch of boulders and throwing them at the enemy, like very much. So even if there are not boulders around, he will find them to throw them. Again, he has a lot of good episodes, too. The one where he's sent back in time and sort of becomes the leader and has the sort of relationship with one of the local girls. Or again, the one where his childhood friend comes back and they sort of start to build sort of a relationship. She doesn't come around that much, but it's something. I also like how he does sort of sometimes step into that second command role when Guy feels like being Guy. But again, we'll get to the whole thing about him later. I also like the one part where he's more or less really in a rush. Rushing out just takes over a lot when it gets to that. The ramen episode where it's technically an Akko's focus episode, but like he gets so crazy mad and impatient. He's just that's the Sentai version of Leroy Jenkins. Thanks for that, TV tropes. So he has to be tied up. It is very funny. So that kind of leads us to the main trio of White Swan, Red Hawk, and Black Condor. Though they went by their names because the actors Frio, Ryu, and Guy just wanted to go by names as they felt more natural, which I feel like fits for this. So of the entire cast, I would say Kaori gets the best. From the beginning of the show to when we get to the end, she feels like an entirely different person. Growing from the spoiled heirs who wanted something to do to change up her life to being the real heart of the team. Like, one thing I like this is, like, in the episode where they introduce the team canon, and then at the end she claims that she will love him, not taking into account he's still reeling from what happened and causing more tension in the team because of how Guy feels for her. It shows that she's not particularly the most well-grown character, but it kind of more or less comes into play later on when Ryu is attempting to sacrifice his life to take on Radiguet, yet when he more or less calls him out for so willingly throwing away his life when the others are around to help him. Because she's also sort of one of the main focuses, she definitely doesn't have as many focus episodes specifically catered to her, but there are some good ones. I like the Diamond one where she's having to cure Akko from being cursed and whatever her big developments is. When she believes that she may end up dying because of a fortune teller who is related to Viren, but she didn't know that, she is still willing to fight because of it. Ryu is very much defined by the relationships he has throughout the season. He is very much hung up over Rei's death from the beginning, as he kind of pushes Kaori away despite her obvious thing for him, which ends up causing numerous problems. When he's not hung up on that he plays very much the standard leader for the time, the serious stoic man who never gives up in the face of danger, but it's clear that it's covering up for the trauma of that. It's shown early on that he wants nothing to do with her, showing her the grave like I'm still not over this. This is who I love, and I don't know if we're able to love anyone else. And upon seeing that Maria and Rie are the same person, the poor guy just kind of snaps. She believes that she is alive and that he needs to save her, and it's just seeing him on that swing, thinking that she is right next to him, is probably one of the saddest things that this entire series has built up to. And it serves as a great turning point for the main trio's relationship, and kind of makes the team feel like a team, not just 5 people who sometimes get along, sometimes one of them is kind of in a bad mood and just doesn't want to deal with that. But it actually feels like a Sentai once this happens. Rie still very much has a hold over him as he tries to still save her, and when she ends up dying, he attempts a suicide attack to avenge her, because Red is the worst. Again, he has also one of the better stories, and again, the focus episodes are really good. His grandmother one, the one dealing with his friend when he steals something, the standard we think the character is betraying us, but he's doing it in order to get information on stuff. Again, this series has so many good focus episodes, so it's alongside the main plot. And now that leads us to Guy. Guy in the beginning is not a good person of any sort. He's a self-serving, womanizing, smoking jerkass who only really joins because Kaori's a part of this, who he feels entitled to because I guess she's the first girl to never fall for him on first sight. So that leads to him butting heads a lot with Ryu regarding his leadership and not wanting to follow it because he's a rebel. I mean, he smokes. In a show for children. Japanese children, mind you, but he smokes. Think of the children. But beneath all of that, we actually have one of the more interesting and deep characters Sentai has ever done. Sure. But he is, by all accounts, for a good chunk of the season, but as the series goes on, we slowly see the good guy, but who's willing to do anything to do what's right, even though he claims he doesn't want to do it. It's shown as early as the 3rd episode, where Ray comes back to help the Jetman after saying that, yeah, I don't want to be a part of this. You guys can go help yourselves. And the guy is just pure, undiluted awesome. Even Dev can't keep him from helping his team and doing the right thing. And there's stuff like him walking up against the vacuum monster and solo transforming. Yeah, taking on the Shadow Team. His entire rivalry with Gray, it is peak in my opinion, especially that casino episode. The character around him is specifically, accepting the team around him and getting over his loner attitude and becoming, best bro. That's the best way to describe it. He becomes the best bro, and yes, anyone else, Sentai knows how good this was because they have tried sometimes to recapture the magic of this was. Characters like Ian from Kyoryuger or the Bokenger Black Ranger, but those you can take home to mom without having to worry about it. They're soft. Guy, you may not be able to without your mother wanting a slice of that pie too, because, lots of women like. And this was probably the Odagiri before Odagiri. And speaking of Odagiri, let's talk about them. I liked her from the first film because she immediately punched at Ryu when he was being very despairing and told him to suck it up because they're the last hope for him. She very much plays the stern Remember, with the training from hell she subjects them to actually make them a proper team. But just like a mother, she can reward them when they've done really well. Like a vacation later on that's interrupted by Tranza because he was having a moment. And she very much, and even if there isn't a Sixth Ranger, she very much is sort of that because she does get involved more later on in the show when she pilots the mechas or helps them strategize against the monster. She sort of is the smart one in the group. And again, I really liked Vyram too. Yeah, could you tell I almost really recommend this season? It's so good. But they're definitely unique even by today's standards. Usually with the evil force there is a leader, and a few commanders that vary in what they do. Probably the serious dragon who has a rivalry with the Red, the comedic one, the chick. Vyram really doesn't have that. It's more like 4 different people feuding for said leader. Yeah, making them all the big bad of the season in their own way. Though tentatively 2 of them are the big bads for longer. And it does give each monster of the week a different flavor depending on who is sending them out. Now then, they probably are just as dysfunctional as the Jetman, though whereas they get over and come together, this ends up being one of the more volatile villain factions that they have ever seen. And they do sort of try to give sort of a leader, but it's more just a one-arc monster of the week thing with Jews. Yes. And she's kind of overshadowed because that arc also shows Radiguet basically jumping over the shark. Just to say, God am I, who was quite the screwed up plot of turning people into crystals and extracting their pain to power up her monster. It's just to show how much more dark this season is. Of the 4, I probably liked Gray the most for his more interesting morals. Oh, he's definitely evil, but he's much more noble compared to the rest of the Vyram. Maybe except Maria, but we'll get to her. He's, well, Gray. He has a code of honor compared to the treacherous natures of both Tran and Radiguet, making his nature as a robot with the most heart and sort of ironic tragedy. Especially considering the fact that he ends up falling for Marie as something of a real person rather than just something to possess, but it's not gonna end. And again, the whole rivalry between him and Guy is some of the best stuff this season has going for it, especially that end. Oh, this is a season that really wants to drain you for your tears by the end of it. But then, that tragedy also sort of extends to Maria, the Baroness, who has both Gray and Radiguet gets sort of twisted around her. She's the more cold and cruel Baroness who's often put at odds with the girls of the team, but she has the human moments, like playing the piano that helps to build something between her and Gray, and of course the revelation that I've already said that she is the brainwashed Rie who somehow survives in the vacuum of space. Ace, who ultimately realized she is probably beyond redemption for all the horrible things she kind of did. And it's kind of sad knowing her final moments is that she still loved Ryu and kind of didn't like Gray, since definitely a big double out since he would be the last one with her. Tran is very much the psychopathic child of the group, mostly wanting to make everyone's life hell for his enjoyment. Think of that kid from the Twilight Zone episode with the psychic powers who rules the house with an iron fist. Basically like that, a horrid little demon child who just watches everyone suffering. But like most boys, when they get called out, is quite weak, which happens when the other Vyram make fun of him for being small and his plans often not working, which makes him even worse after he grows up to become Tranza. His time might be short, but he is very much the biggest threat of the season at that point. point. But it's still very much the same trend with the man-child tendencies of wanting to beat the Jetman members of what they're good at, like beating Raita at an eating contest. Yes, but ironically, the Jetman, we've known that oftentimes the Jetman are nearly defeated, but are often saved because of the big final bad Ratigan. And again, that's what makes it interesting. So, don't get me wrong, he's a complete and utter bastard, a monstrous sociopath with not a single redeeming bone in his body, considering that he starts the season by massacring the forces of Earth base, and it continues to show how little he cares for others. I mean, there's Maria, but that's more of the possessive yandere feeling kind of way of you're mine and no one else can have. You know, the only reason he helps the Jetman is because he wants to be the one to kill them, to be the head of Vyram. That's all that matters to him, even helping against the Empress and later Trans. So, and I do mean no soul. So, when Juza beats him and turns him into a human with no memories, he ends up being found by this young woman who cares for him, and the two kind of hit it off until he finally remembers who he is because of Juza's attacks. He goes to help them, only to come back and subsequently kill her. Yeah, you know your character is so utterly irredeemable and hated when the actor himself even hated performing as him, to the point that he didn't want his own child to know what he had played. Yeah, that is some stuff. Moving on to aesthetics. I think the Jetman suits are really, really good. You can instantly tell what each one is supposed to represent based off the helmet, if you know anything about birds. Compared to the Lightman suits, there's a much better mix of white in the respective color, which I don't think the Lightman suits were able to do. I like the wings when they morph out. It's a really great suit. I do like the changes though. It's very simple. Just a little diamond wrist morpher that is pretty simple to tap to transform. Nothing special, but it is solid. The mech on the other hand, I think are okay. I think Jet Icarus is a little too blocky though, considering that all of the mechas are just different sized planes. Planes is definitely not the easiest thing. I do like some of the use they get out of them, you know, considering how nowadays sometimes the mechas just exist now to form the giant Zord rather than just their own unique things, especially Raita bringing in his old boulder throwing thing with his. I think Jet Garuda might be a bit better since it has a more standardized color to help it, but I do like the full fusion between them. And then Tetsuya Boy's pretty. And Vyram also looks pretty good. Good, this kind of regal, otherworldly aesthetic to them. The foot soldiers are also decent. Black soldiers with red spots to give them sort of this magma-like look. And a lot of the monster designs rightfully take normal, everyday objects and twists them into being this monstrosity, which they sort of end up mixing with organic life around the midway point to help up the danger. Like the teddy bear, the other ones are probably like flashing through because the season is really, really good if you couldn't tell. You know, music's also really good. It has this nice balance between heroic and triumphant, and somber, which is best described in like the main theme being the big triumphant one and the ending being a lot more somber and down to earth. There's episodes I probably haven't mentioned yet, but I think are really good. Oh god, the episode where Ryu's grandmother comes in is funny and also shows how much he took after. And oh yeah, the one where like an early early dimensional beast comes in wanting to prove that he can stand against the bi-dimensional beast. That's also really good. You can see this. It's on Tubi. There's DVDs out. This is one of those that you can go out and watch right now if you have the time, which I highly recommend. 30 years down the line, this is still one of the best entries in the franchise, and was the right shot in the arm the franchise needed. Is there flaws? Yeah, I wish everyone got better focus, but the cast has such amazing chemistry across the board. The villains are so great. It is actually a pretty decent starting point if you want to get someone interested, or maybe not. As always, do the usual things to help me stay in the algorithm, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you for another 90s tokusatsu.